Coming up in the news, Resorts World Bimini issuing a COVID-19 testing policy and mandatory requirements. Also, the Minister of State for Finance and Minister of Grand Bahama opens the Senate debate. And donations continue to pour in for Malia Smith role. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Shashina Wolfarkas, and as always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news this evening, a new COVID-19 testing policy causing a bit of a stir on the island of Bimini. The management of Resorts World Bimini implementing a new policy and mandatory requirements for employees via an email. Management noting that this is not the time for employees to let their guards down, but some say it is going too far. Jamila Mizik is on the story tonight.
Resorts World Bimini issuing a COVID-19 testing policy and mandatory requirements yesterday to all team members in Bimini. The release noting that the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic has seen progress, but it is far from over, and now is not the time to let guards down. To ensure the safety of all team members, families, the community, and their guests, Resorts World Bimini is implementing measures designed to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Effective immediately, all team members who are working on the property of Resorts World will be required to quarantine for 72 hours upon arrival from another island. This means if an employee chooses to visit family and friends on any other island, no matter how small, they will be required to quarantine for 72 hours and pass a negative COVID test before returning to work or residing in on-site housing. Employees will also be required to quarantine for 72 hours if they have been within 6 feet of a person for 15 minutes or more and that person has tested positive for COVID-19. Immediately after exposure and following the 72-hour quarantine period, a negative COVID-19 test will be required to return to work. Resorts World Bimini is also implementing departmental mandatory testing based on the number of team members in specific high-risk locations. The entire department will be required to be COVID-19 tested as directed by senior management. Team members who test positive will be required to follow guidelines as directed by the competent health authority. The release further notes that any team member to be tested as directed by management or who refuses to follow the competent health authority guidelines will be considered to be refusing to perform the requirements of their position and as such will be considered to have voluntarily resigned. It says that any team member who has symptoms of COVID-19 should immediately refrain from entering the workplace and should advise their department head and human resources for further direction. Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
Bimini's Member of Parliament is responding tonight to that new policy put in place by Resorts World. She is calling it extreme. The Honorable Pakeisha Parker Edgecombe noting that while Bimini has experienced a lot as it relates to COVID-19, adding that no one wants to go back there. She says the staff of Resorts World Bimini cannot live in fear or made to feel that if they move from the property, they will be locked in quarantine for 72 hours.
There should have been at least a meeting that was held to come to some mutual understanding as to how that property would go forward in this pandemic. What I understand is that employees were only notified through the communication of an email or a letter. I do understand what officials of Resorts World is attempting to do by ensuring the safety of both tourists that come to that hotel property as well as staff members. But it seems extreme to me that individuals are being told that if they were to go home and visit family or friends, that on returning to property, they would have to be in quarantine, when in reality there are measures which will indicate whether or not they are with the COVID-19 virus or not. And so I think it could have been handled in a different manner with a promotion of more vaccines being taken and perhaps the resort helping with that to ensure that everyone is safe. But I do believe it is rather extreme and I'm hoping that they revisit it.
Says there are other measures to ensure the safety of all. Meantime, she's advising residents not to let their guards down and to practice safety protocols. And now to the latest figures from the daily COVID-19 dashboard showing 28 new cases, 2 in Bimini, Key, 1 in Grand Bahama, 2 in Eleuthera, and 23 in New Providence. There are 39 hospitalized cases, including 3 cases in ICU, all in the nation's capital. 11,393 cases have recovered to date, and there are 685 active cases at this time. Switching gears now, Minister of State for Finance and Minister of State for Grand Bahama, Kwesi Thompson, leading off the budget debate in the Senate yesterday, noting that preliminary data over the past 6 months places revenue ahead of budget projections by 13.5%, and revenue collection for the past 6 months, ending in May 2021, is also ahead of actual revenue for the same period last year. Italia Hall has more.
The Minister of State for Finance, Senator the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, outlining some of the challenges as well as successes the country has achieved during the opening of the 2021-2022 Senate budget debate. Minister Thompson noting that at the end of May 2021, the government provided some $284 million in support for households by way of the National Insurance Board Unemployment Benefit Program and its Unemployment Assistance Program. He says from September 2019 to May 2021, those programs have assisted some 86,000 people.
For our recovery did not stop there. The Ministry of Social Services also provided support through its rental assistance, its food assistance, and clothing assistance programs. Madam President, see, this is why sometimes I get emotion, passion, when people talk about what we did and didn't do. We provided, Madam President, $35.9 million for the National Food Distribution Task Force. And Madam President, this supported more than 72,000 beneficiaries.
Minister Thompson says the government must create more jobs for Bahamians, and an employment initiative program will be implemented.
It is a program that will allow businesses to claim VAT credits up to $400 a week for up to 10 new employees.
He says with the opening of the economy in November 2020, the country has experienced higher than expected revenue inflows from main tax categories such as VAT, customs, and border taxes.
But if we look at the revenue for the last 6 months, the period of December 2020 to May of 2021, preliminary data places revenue ahead of budget projections by 13.5% or $126 million. Revenue collection for the 6 months ending May of 2021 is also ahead of actual revenue for the same period in the prior year by some $5.4 million.
Minister Thompson then turning to Grand Bahama, he says there is no full national recovery without the return of the Grand Bahamian economy. He listed a number of projects in the pipeline for this northern island, such as the Doctors Hospital Project, Western Atlantic University School of Medicine, the construction of the East End School, the East End Microgrid Project, the McLeanstown Housing Project, the Carnival Cruise Port, the sale of the Grand Lucayan Resort, the Discovery Bay Project, and Royal Caribbean's Home Porting Initiative, which he says will boost the Bahamian economy over the next 25 years and beyond, with some 250 additional ship visits to Freeport.
And more than 1.5 million additional cruise passengers annually. Hundreds of new jobs for Bahamians annually during the 6-year development phase, and thousands more annually once in operation.
Senator Jasmine,
again, it doesn't stop there. Royal Caribbean has launched home porting cruises, which not only stop in Grand Bahama but also provision it ships in Grand Bahama.
Minister Thompson providing an update on the My Gateway project, which is a platform that offers digital payments and digital delivery of all government services.
Now you have over 8,000 persons who have signed up for users of the My Gateway. You have, Madam President, 11 services that are now online, on stream, being used by thousands of Bahamians. And not only that, but it is being used across 16 of our islands. So it means, Madam President, that it's no longer you now having to fly and, well, not for every service, but for those 11 services. But for those 11 services, you have access to those services on your island. So, Madam President, we've seen things like the driver's license renewal process. We've seen things like the post office box renewal.
It's Halia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Tonight, the Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, the Honorable Michael Pintard, making note of the establishment of several initiatives that will seek to move the country's agricultural product forward here on Grand Bahama. He says the goal is to get Grand Bahamians more involved in the agriculture industry, whether it be for personal consumption or a much larger scale. Jamila Mizik reports.
Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, the Honorable Michael Pintard, says the ministry has implemented a number of initiatives on Grand Bahama, which they believe will excite members of the community to become more involved in the agriculture industry.
We've hired new staff, a number of persons who are coming in with a variety of certifications, including bachelor's and master's degrees in agriculture. We believe this is going to strengthen our extension services, and we're going to be in a better position to be more attentive to the farming community. We have worked with the Small Business Development Center in order to provide grant funding and credit to a number of agribusiness persons. So hundreds of thousands of dollars was made available to persons who are starting or expanding their business. This to us is a game changer.
Minister Pintard says in the upcoming budget cycle, the ministry is going to continue providing financing to persons with ideas that they believe will pay dividends.
There's been a scarcity of land for some persons who have clear business ideas, access to funding. We have just signed over the last several weeks at least 60 approvals for persons who have been applying for land in Grand Bahama, some of them for over 10 years. And so I'm happy that we're moving that process forward. In addition, we've continued with land clearing, and so those persons who need their lands cleared and they're also interested in having the soil tilled, we have approved more than $1 million in heavy equipment for 7 islands, inclusive of Grand Bahama, which would include tractor as well as machines to help till the soil.
And he says they will continue to promote self-sufficiency through agriculture and farming.
We've also been distributing layer birds. In order to assist the livestock industry in growing, we wanted to donate to farmers layer birds so that you as a homeowner can in fact produce eggs 365 days a year if you so decide. Or if you want to go into it commercially, you could upscale your inventory and also produce eggs year round. We intend to retrofit a number of the community parks with raised beds. Right now in Mayfield Park, we're now preparing the property for a number of raised beds. So community gardens is another initiative that is going. One is working already in Central Grand Bahama. 2 of them are now going to pop off in Marco City. So we're quite excited about that, and it's going to be island-wide.
Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment.